the White House press conference started with the press secretary, I'd say maybe like 20 minutes ago or so. And in the last 5 minutes, we actually heard them read President Trump's MRI results. Rob, we've been talking about this for about 24 hours now, but for days, people have been calling for the president to release the MRI results. Yesterday, he said he would. Today, in the last 20 minutes, we just got a word on what those results were. Basically, the short of it is they're calling the results perfectly normal and saying that the president is in excellent health. I actually have a clip of the press secretary reading those results here, so I'm going to play that for you now.
As part of President Trump's comprehensive executive physical, advanced imaging was performed because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. The purpose of this imaging is preventative, to identify any issues early, confirm overall health, and ensure the president maintains long-term vitality and function. President Trump's cardiovascular imaging was perfectly normal. No evidence of arterial narrowing impairing blood flow or abnormalities in the heart or major vessels. The heart chambers are normal in size, the vessel walls appear smooth and healthy, and there are no signs of inflammation or clotting. Overall, his cardiovascular system shows excellent health. His abdominal imaging is also perfectly normal. All major organs appear very healthy and well perfused. Everything evaluated is functioning within normal limits with no acute or chronic concerns. In summary, this level of detailed assessment is standard for an executive physical at President Trump's age and confirms that he remains in excellent overall health.
That is word for word, by the way, of the email I got from the White House press office too, and that is, yeah, that is the summary that was sent from the physician to the president, and so she read that verbatim, basically saying that it was a normal imaging to do for somebody his age, that they looked at his heart, they looked at his abdomen, looking for any abnormalities. There's nothing there. Of course, this became a question because he got this in October. And they didn't say what led to it and what it was of specifically, why they did it, beyond that the results were fine. And so it led to a lot of questions about, was there an issue that led you to this? Is there a concern that you're trying to suss out some symptoms or something? And of course, we know he had the swelling in his ankles that was attributed to vascular issues. Certainly, you know, I had some leg treatment at one point too for vascular issues. That can happen. So that's where this came out of. And the fallout too is saying that normally when a president gets some kind of medical treatment like this, you are told why right away, and this has been October since he had this done.
Yep, so lots of, I'd say, Rob, lots of speculation over what might have been going on there, but some clarity now in the last 20, 30 minutes.
Okay.
The press secretary also, Rob, calling out fraud in Minnesota. She actually started speaking about the fraud when talking about the National Guard shooting that happened in Washington, D.C. near the White House last week, tying this back to the fraud in Minnesota because the core of her point here is concerns around immigration and refugees and people seeking asylum. The person who carried out that shooting, that attack in D.C., is an Afghan refugee, came here under Biden administration in a program to bring allies from Afghanistan into the U.S. So now the concern is re-vetting these people who came under that program and other immigrants as well, other refugees. Then she tied it again back to Minnesota, our Somali community, and rising concerns about fraud here in our state government. So this has been a big topic at the White House with the president over the last few days. And honestly, just with everyone, we heard pretty much every gubernatorial candidate bring up recent fraud in the state government.
Yeah, so. and that will certainly, you know, going back to Feeding Our Future, which was, you know, a pandemic era fraud and the largest pandemic era fraud in the nation. You know, I've covered a couple of those trials, many of those court hearings as well. There's still people being charged in that. And then, of course, we had some autism programs and some housing stability programs, and where people are finding loopholes in the system here to fraudulently bill. And there's been some guilty pleas, there's been some not guilty pleas, et cetera here. So that is certainly going to be a top as we head into now less than a year until the midterms and the gubernatorial race, et cetera. That'll be a huge issue that Republicans will use against Democrats. So you're going to hear a lot more of that.
Yeah, it will. The press secretary is actually still taking questions right now, Rob. So let's listen in for a couple minutes, and then I've got Corin on standby also covering rising concerns, as we're mentioning, about fraud in Minnesota. So let's listen in here to the White House.
Also going to name some of the correspondents, some which may be here today.
Yes, we are. I'm glad you noticed. Much to the dismay of some of your colleagues in the room, John. And I think it goes to our original promise on day one to hold the media accountable, because unfortunately, and we deal with this all day, every day around here, there are so many fake stories that are unfortunately written that have inaccurate characterizations of meetings that took place, and it's all based on anonymous sourcing. And the standard for journalism, unfortunately, has dropped to such a historic low in this country. And again, we deal with it every day, where you can have an anonymous source who has no idea what they're talking about, zero credibility, call up a reporter in Washington and say, hey, I heard this, and then the next thing you know, it's on the front page of the New York Times. It's really incomprehensible. We appreciate the journalists, some of those who are in this room who do reach out for comment, who try to get things right, and there are some that remain. But overwhelmingly, the fake news that we see pumped out of this building on a day-to-day basis, it's honestly overwhelming to keep up with it all, and to constantly have to defend against these fake news and these attacks. And I will point out one fake news story over the weekend before I let you all go, from the New York Times that took about 1/3 of the president's daily calendar and his daily schedule and said that he's doing less than he did in his first term, or he might not be fit for the job. That is unequivocally false, and it's deeply unfortunate that this story was written by the same outlet and the same reporter who wrote this: Biden is doing 100% fine after tripping while boarding Air Force One. Oh, same outlet, same reporter who wrote that President Trump is not fit for the job. Are you kidding me? You all see him almost every single day. He is the most accessible president in history. He is taking meetings around the clock. Another one. Biden declared, quote, healthy and vigorous after his first presidential physical. I don't see headlines like that too often about this president. Again, same reporter, same outlet who wrote falsely over the weekend that President Trump is not fit for the job. I can assure you he absolutely is. You all see that with your own eyes on a daily basis, and the president's physician has now given you all 3 detailed reports on the state of the president's health. So with that, I will leave you all, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
There you go, the end of the White House press secretary's meeting with the press today. Again, initially talking about the MRI results, releasing those to say they looked at the president's cardiovascular system, his abdomen too, and everything was fine. But, that is questions about, that's been lingering since October about why did he have this? And typically with presidential health issues, there seems to be more, it's more upfront about what it was. So they did release that. And then they're talking about a New York Times article that I read over the weekend too, that it didn't say, unlike what she just said there, it didn't say the president was unfit for office. That's not what it said. It looked at comparing, the question is he slowing down? Obviously, he's 79 years old. And, so there were people wondering, is he slowing down a little bit with that age? And looking at his schedule and saying, it suggests that he's doing less than he was. But then again, he's older than he was in his first term, too. So, I mean, that's all part of the conversation.